Hello and welcome to TalkFCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys. Manchester United against Barcelona is certainly on our agenda, and today it is time now for the tactical preview, the full tactical analysis of everything we're going to be seeing over the next two legs. The first leg at Old Trafford, a vital step there in reaching the semi-finals and seeing the job through then in the second leg at the Camp Nou. We are going to be looking at both teams head to head, how they're going to come up against each other, how both sides are expected to set up, and of course, how we are going to make those steps, make those strides to pick holes in that Solskjaer team. All of that and some more, it's coming right up. Let's do this. And I want to start first of all by looking here at the shape that United adopted in the last round against PSG. And I think that's really important there, to look at both how they played in the first leg at home at Old Trafford, how they set themselves up, because I think it's going to be a very similar approach from them against Barcelona on Wednesday. And then in the second leg, when they had to come out, but did they do that in the return leg there at the Parc des Princes? We're going to start here with the first leg from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And looking at those names out there, looking at the players that United had at their disposal in the first leg at home, you would feel there that it was a 4-3-3 formation. You've got here Young and Luke Shaw, who can certainly go forward and add to the attack. You've got Matic, Herrera and Paul Pogba here in midfield, with Lingard, Rashford and Martial. No real recognised centre forward. Marcus Rashford, hardly a target man. But what United actually set up to do there was nullify PSG. It wasn't really an attack-minded team from United, because what we actually saw in game was these two wingers here just dropping in to help out with the midfield, and it actually became 5 in midfield from United. And what you had here was Marcus Rashford, who once again would get back behind the ball. A lot of the time United was sitting really deep. They were soaking up pressure. They were happy to concede possession to PSG, so they'll certainly do that with us, no doubt about that. And what they were looking then was just to break. They were looking for mistakes, individual errors, just to use these players to really get in the wider areas, really to take PSG on the counter-attack. But I have to say, that never ever happened. Right throughout the game, PSG penned United in. They were unable to get out. They were unable to sustain these kind of attacks because they simply couldn't put enough passes together in this midfield area. Matic, Herrera, Paul Pogba, they were under extreme pressure there from that PSG midfield, and that's what we have to do. We'll have to gain control, we'll do that, they'll concede possession, and when we've got that, just dictate the game, nullify the threat here of these quick, pacey players from United, and just make them sit inside their own half, stay compact, stay in their shape. They can do that all they like in their own stadium. If you keep them in that shape, if you keep them back, that will be job well done. And this here was what we actually saw from Manchester United in the second leg against Paris Saint-Germain, where they tried to chase the game when they made that incredible comeback. This here is the team that managed to beat PSG. And honestly, looking at this now, PSG threw it away. There's no doubt about that. This was basically the side when Bailly went off injured after half an hour. He was getting torn to shreds down that right-hand side. So what Solskjaer actually did, which is something that he might do against us, is basically put Ashley Young here in a right wing-back role. But he also had Dalot ahead of him, who's also a full-back. And they almost played there like you've seen us do with Sergio Roberto and Nelson Semedo. They almost played there with a double fullback. Really good cover there on that right hand side. You also had McTominay here, who at times was dropping in there as an extra centre half. They really were packing the defence when they needed to, and they did have to do that against Paris Saint-Germain. And in midfield, to be perfectly honest, it was non-existent from Man United here. What they were just trying to do was get bodies back. I think Romelu Lukaku was somebody who they'll look to use against us, no doubt about that, because against PSG he was a bit of a handful. Certainly he was looking to capitalise on their mistakes, and he did that with 2 vital goals. But apart from that here, all once again United were relying on was those counter-attacks. They were looking to break with PSG. They had Pereira on the right-hand side. Rashford was playing in a bit more of a wider role here, trying to get up and down and try and get in behind, of course, if PSG there exposed themselves in the full-back areas. But like I say, this midfield here, there's a lot to be desired. I think certainly there we would have done some serious damage against United with that lack of a midfield, with that lack of base there at the centre of their team. But in defence, they were certainly sitting deep, and United, don't be surprised if they do that. They will try and attack when they can, but overall, they'll be deep in the field, they'll allow us to have the ball, and we have to use that to our advantage. But moving on now to the job in hand, that big game at Old Trafford on Wednesday night, the first leg of the quarter-final, where it all matters. We start here with the home side. This is basically how I would expect United to line up under Solskjaer on Wednesday night. De Gea in goal, Shaw at left-back, Young at right-back, no doubt about that whatsoever. There is a bit of doubt here over the centre-backs. I've gone here with Smalling and Lindelof, Smalling being preferred there over Eric Bailly. In midfield, Matic there holding in midfield, Pogba to the left, Herrera to the right there, giving them some bite, giving them some edge there in in midfield, with Lingard just ahead of them, playing in a much more central sort of area. Rashford here alongside Romelu Lukaku, who's going to lead the line. Rashford there playing off of Lukaku. The only thing that I would say there is that Rashford didn't play in their last game against Wolves. He had a bit of a knock. I'm assuming he's going to be okay for that, but if he doesn't play, it might be Anthony Martial playing off Lukaku. But what you can see here is United are certainly going to be very, very narrow, very compact in their play, but I would expect once again to sit in, really absorb the space, and that team there, that looks set up to do exactly that in a sort of 4-4-2 formation, but very, very narrow. But then moving on, of course, to the all-important Barcelona team that you're going to be seeing on Wednesday night at Old Trafford. And I would say here, 9 of the 11 players are all decided. Ter Stegen in goal, Alba, Longley, of course, at centre-back alongside Gerard Piqué. That's a tried and trusted partnership. That's going to be the case on Wednesday night. Busquets, Arthur, Rakitic in midfield, no doubt about that whatsoever. And then Messi and Luis Suarez here in the forward line. The only two things really we have to decide here is number one, is it going to be Nelson Semedo on the right back area, or is it going to be Sergio Roberto? And number two, is it going to be Felipe Coutinho in that front three, or is it going to be Malcolm, who's really pushed himself into contention in the past few weeks? Those are the two vital calls that Ernesto Valverde has to make. What I would say is this, I think it has to be one or the other. You have to include either Semedo or you have to include Malcolm. I don't think really we can afford to leave both of those players out, because I feel here in this kind of team, in this setup against that United side who is certainly pacey, they've got good athleticism, we're going to need here some pace, either on the right hand side through Semedo or in the forward line with Malcolm, who can stretch United. So I think there, one or the other have to be included. Don't leave out both. And so this is basically how it's going to look coming head to head. Now, of course, I've gone here with Nelson Semedo on the right-hand side and Felipe Coutinho here. That's what in my gut I've got a feeling that Valverde is going to go with, but it could be Roberto, it could be Malcolm. But this is how it's going to look head to head. And the one thing that screams out there to me is all about this midfield. All about that United midfield, and all about really keeping Pogba in his own half here. Withdrawn, make him defend. He hates defending. If you put him in his own half, if you shut off that supply line, you don't allow him to get forward and start combining with Rashford and Lukaku, and Rakitic certainly will do that job well. He will marshal Pogba, he will certainly be strict, he'll be staying with him, he's always somebody who can stay concentrated, and I think we'll certainly do that. What you then have is Lingard up against Sergio Busquets. If Lingard here is playing in this central role, trying to close him down, and he will do that, he'll have a lot of energy, he'll try and get in Busquets' face, but if we can play around that, suddenly then, it's Arthur, it's Rakitic, it's those players here, you'll have Messi dropping in against these three United players. I think certainly Arthur here can navigate around Herrera, then it's Matic and Messi, and certainly there, you break that midfield, and then you're on to Smalling and Lindelof. And I think it's all about there getting through that midfield and really then getting upon that defence. That United defence, as we know, even Mourinho couldn't make those players good at defensive play. If there's one manager in the world, along with Diego Simeone, who could get a team to defend, it's Mourinho. Even he couldn't get a tune out of those defenders. We have to get face to face with Suarez, with Messi, with Coutinho, with those defensive players. Ashley Young here at right back, Luke Shaw at left back. Those are players there that if you get one-on-one, if you get face to face with them, I would back us 10 times out of 10 to get past them and have a shot on goal. Test David De Gea, who just like Jan Oblak is going to be a difficult customer to beat, but if we can get in there, navigate your way around that midfield, which like I say, I believe there it's not strong enough from United to go head to head with Barcelona, but if they do that, if we go there with that midfield and that shape, I believe there already we have an advantage. And what you also have to look at really, really quickly here is all of this space in the wider areas. Now, United are certainly going to get back in their shape. They're going to be very, very compact. They're going to be structured, and they're going to look, of course, to soak up that pressure. But what you have to look at here is how much space we're going to have if they are incredibly narrow in that midfield area. And if they are narrow, you're going to have Alba here, you're going to have Semedo here, joining the attack, whoever it may be. And certainly, we know that is an area of our game where we thrive upon, and Solskjaer will know that as well. You'll either here drag out the fullbacks Young and Luke Shaw, and suddenly then those centre-backs are massively, massively exposed. But if they stay there, what you're then going to ask is Herrera to come out wide here and try and stop Alba, and the same for Paul Pogba, asking those players really to go out into areas they're not really comfortable doing. And of course, as soon as they go out there, as soon as they're attracted there to all of this play on the wider areas, those midfield players come into their own. They've got space, they've got time, and if you allow us time in their own half, we can, I fully believe it, cut set United apart. But there are two things that I would watch out for from United, and one of them is this sort of scenario. Clearly, even though it's the home leg, we are going to dominate that ball. They're going to sit back, they're going to exhaust. We're going to have the full-backs bombing on here, we're going to have players in the midfield area who are pushing on, and the centre-backs are going to be very, very high. What you have to watch out for then is possession. You've got to be patient, you have to be very, very careful with your ball possession, the way you're playing your passes. Don't take unnecessary risks. Of course, you want to try and break the lines, you want to try and get onto United, but at the same time, don't give the ball away in silly areas here in the midfield, because one slack pass and United could be onto you. They've got Rashford here, who's certainly capable of getting in behind using that pace. You've got Lingard here, who will happily burst from midfield. He'll have the energy to do that all game long. And of course, Lukaku as well. He may be big, he may be strong, but he's also pretty quick in behind here, in between our centre-backs. And one slack pass, one lapse in concentration. If we overcommit members going forward, if we get our full-backs too pushed on, United do have the tools to hit us on that counter-attack. It only takes one moment, as we saw against PSG, to blow up your entire game. So we have to play here a calculated game. We've got to be patient with our passing. We've got to be patient with our attacks. Build them slowly but surely. Get that reward, but don't overcommit. Don't overcommit yourself. It's the away leg. Get our goal. Be methodical, but at the same time, don't go gung-ho. Don't throw everything we've got at United here, because they do have the tools on the counter-attack there to get bodies forward and get them forward very quickly. And the final thing I would say about United, one word of caution, would be this significant height advantage they'll have coming into this game. They do have some very, very tall players, the likes of Smalling, Lukaku, Paul Pogba. They do have players right throughout their team who are significantly taller and more physical than we are. So what I would say about that is, in general play, not a problem for us whatsoever. We've known that right throughout our career. Small players, of course, will get you the job done, but don't give away silly corners, silly fouls. Don't give them away needlessly, because we do not want to invite pressure from set pieces from Man United, who will certainly look to one of those areas there to try and target us from those kind of situations. So play your game, play our game, and I truly believe here we can get at United. That defence there is certainly not secure. We have to be methodical though, and most importantly, we have to be concentrated. Know what we're doing in these kind of nights and these kind of occasions. We tend to come alive. Barcelona will not let us down, I can assure you. So please leave your full thoughts in the comments down below, guys. The build-up continues. The game now is getting ever closer. I cannot wait for this. I've got so high expectations going into this game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We are going to get the job done. I promise you this. We will get there. But until next time, as always, Visca El Barça.